Good evening, everybody. Oh, we're waiting. We're waiting on one more member, and we'll start the meeting. So we're waiting on one person. Oh, that's her. Okay. Good evening. It is now 6 p.m. The meeting of the Design Review Board is scheduled for March 5th. Is now called to order. My name is Luisa Tovar, and I'm the Planning and Development Deputy Director for the City of Chambly. I will now ask the members of the Planning and Development Department to introduce themselves for the record.
Matt Adams, Planning and Development Director.
Tiffany Muyang, Planner 2.
John Torres, Planner 1.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get the second item of the agenda is approval of minutes. So I'm gonna need. Oh, I'm sorry. If you could please introduce yourself. Sorry, this is my first time doing this. So if the board members could introduce themselves too, for the record.
Brett Bowden, Design Review Board member.
Joshua Word.
Emily Delatorre, and I would also like to say that I am on the board of the Peachtree Creek Greenway. I don't get any monetary compensation. I don't work for them or anything like that. I am on the board, so that is a primary concern of mine. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. The second item on the agenda is approval of minutes. So if the board could provide a motion and a second.
Before I make a motion, can I recommend like one very minor edit?
Yes.
I believe one of the criteria in the notes was about tiering of retaining walls. It said so that no wall is greater than 4 feet. I think the intent was that no single tier of the tier retaining wall is more than 4 feet. So just changing the word wall to tier.
Yeah, we can do that in the notes that we pass along to the council. We could do that.
All right, but with that following edit, I motion to approve minutes from last week or last month.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. The third item on the agenda is the new business. We have. Oh, we need to vote on. Oh, yes. Go ahead and please vote on the approval of the minutes.
So if you could, members, just raise your hand if you vote to approve. Any in opposition or abstention? That's 3-0. Motion passes.
Now we get to the new business. That's the third item on the agenda. So I'm going to read some rules for the meeting tonight. The purpose of the Design Review Board is to review applications for the development of community impact and to provide architectural and design-related recommendations to the Mayor and City Council. These recommendations are advisory only and limited to architectural and design-related recommendations for the City Council to consider adopting as conditions should it approve the project in its current form. Tonight's meeting will proceed as follows. Staff will introduce the agenda item and provide a brief overview of the application. The applicant and those in support of the application will have a total of 10 minutes to speak. The applicant may reserve time for rebuttal. However, if rebuttal time is reserved, no additional speakers in support will be permitted. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application will then have up to 10 minutes total. Following public comment, board members may discuss the project and ask questions of the applicant. After discussion, the board will compile a list of design-related recommendations to forward to the Mayor and City Council for their consideration. Recommendations require a majority vote of members present. If a vote results in a tie, no recommendations will be forwarded. We now are going to start with the staff presentation.
All right, guys, let's get into it. So today we are here to discuss PZ 2026-1644 for 1900 and 1901 Century Boulevard. The applicant is Smith, Gambrell, and Russell, representing Highwood Services for the properties of 1900 Century Boulevard and 1901 Century Boulevard. The total acreage is 15.736 acres. The zoning district is mixed-use business center. The request is for a development of community impact and 6 variances and 9 waivers. This is all for the construction of 374,400 square feet, 5-story, 320-unit mixed-use building with amenity areas, 530 surface parking spaces, and improved streetscape on both sides of Century Boulevard. As a quick run-through through the variances, it is to reduce the 40-foot zoning buffer to 30 feet, to locate a dumpster in the rear yard less than 5 feet from the property line, to allow residential units within 3 feet of a private street, to not locate the primary residential entrances facing Century Boulevard, to allow parking between the building and the street, to add 4 square feet of impervious surfaces within the 75-foot no impervious stream buffer setback, to increase the maximum landscaped area to the supplemental zone from 20% to 77%, to not locate portions of the facade adjacent to the supplemental zone, to allow cementitious fiberboard lap siding on a building greater than 3 stories, to not utilize, the waiver requests are to not utilize type 1 or type 2 construction on a building exceeding 3 stories for a mixed-use development to exceed the 400-foot block length maximum for both parcels, to allow land disturbance within the 40-foot zoning buffer on 1900 Century Boulevard, to not provide a 5-foot planting strip on the western property lines of both properties, to increase the driveway width on the westernmost entrances of both properties from 24 feet to 28 feet and 24 feet to 32 feet, and finally to maintain 3 curb cuts on 1901 Century Boulevard. A quick aerial of the site. The site has 2 parcels totaling 15.736 acres. Both parcels front Century Boulevard. North of 1900 Century Boulevard, there is an existing single-family residential neighborhood, and North Fork Peachtree Creek runs to the east of both sites and south of 1901 Century Boulevard. We're going to quickly flip through some site visit photos of 1900 Century Boulevard and 1901 Century Boulevard. The existing site, according to DeKalb County tax records, 35,136 square feet of office space was constructed for 1900 Century Boulevard. 46,656 square feet of office space was constructed on 1901 Century Boulevard. In 1971, there are existing sidewalks on Century Boulevard, and to date, there are no previous zoning cases associated with either of the properties. The proposed site plan has 2.15 acres of impervious surface on the north parcel, 4.40 acres on the south parcel, for a total impervious area of 6.55 acres or 41.6%. The proposed open space on the northern parcel is 3.12 acres. On the south side, it's 5 acres. The construction proposes multiple retaining walls ranging in height from 2 feet to 7 feet. The multifamily portion will accommodate 320 units. Both ground floor will be provided on all 3 buildings with 3,400 square feet. The parking on the north parcel will provide 180 spaces with 8 bicycle spaces. On the south, there will be 350 parking spaces with 17 bicycle spaces. The streetscape proposed on both sides of Century Boulevard will have a 5-foot landscape zone, a 5-foot sidewalk, and a 5-foot supplemental zone. On the north side, the landscape the landscape within the supplemental zone will accommodate 76.6% or 2,890 square feet, and on the south, it'll be 68.2% of landscaping or 3,422. Here is an exhibit of the impervious area within the floodplain. The property proposes to remove 25,160 square foot of impervious surface within the site out of the floodplain. Here is a existing specimen tree survey, a specimen tree preservation plan, the specimen trees identified for removal on the site, a landscaping plan. The site requires a minimum of 815.1 inches of tree canopy to remain. The proposed specimen trees removed on site will be 1,107 inches of canopy. Specimen trees preserved on site will be 1,300 inches of canopy, and the existing site density to remain as 5,771.4 inches. Getting into the elevations, the proposed materials for all three buildings they'll utilize brick of varying colors, stone veneering, fiber cement board and batten, fiber cement trimming of various colors, and pre-finished aluminum features. All three buildings are 5 stories with an average height of 63 feet 8 inches. I'm just going through those. And that is my presentation for you all today.
The applicant may proceed.
Good evening, members of the board. My name's Alex Brock with Smith Gambrell Russell, land use attorney for Alliance Residential, the developer of the property. With me tonight, joining me, I have Carter Bream and Lucas Carvalho with Alliance Residential, Chris Harrell with Summit Engineering, the civil engineer for the project, and Eric Brock with Brock Hudgens Architects. And Tiffany gave a fairly thorough overview of the project, but there's a few things that I wanted to go through to highlight. The subject property is 2 parcels within the Century Center development. It is central to the development. If you're familiar with the area, it's adjacent to the bridge that goes over the North Fork of Peachtree Creek. The 2 parcels were developed in 1971 for 5 one-story office buildings with surface parking surrounding. Oh, are you doing the slides? Okay, sorry. I was sitting here pushing the button.
And if you could, just move the microphone up a little bit. We want to make sure we get a good
Gotcha.
recording.
Can you hear me better now? Great. Typical for suburban office developments at that time in 1971, it was surface parked with parking in between the building and the street, parking surrounding. There was no stormwater management on site, no water quality. All the runoff from the parking lots go directly into the North Fork of Peachtree Creek with no attenuation and no water quality treatment. A large portion of the existing site, including the parking, is within the 100-year floodplain of Peachtree Creek. If you could go to the next one. And as you can see on this slide, what we are proposing is the removal of a significant amount of impervious area from not only the floodplain, but at the stream buffers as well. In fact, we are removing approximately 25,160 square feet or 0.578 acres of impervious area from the floodplain and 676 square feet of impervious area from the stream buffers. All this will be replaced with pervious landscaping. Water quality, as I mentioned, there is no water quality on site today, so any oils, grits, or debris that are caught in the parking lot go directly into the creek. We will be capturing that and routing that through a water quality measure to treat before it is released downstream. Zoning buffer, there is a requirement in the MUBC district for a 40-foot zoning buffer adjacent to the single-family residential to the north. As it exists today, that zoning buffer is approximately 15 feet. Majority of that is a concrete swale with little to no landscaping or existing vegetation. We are improving that. We are leaving the swale as is because that is conveying off-site water through our property. But we are increasing the landscape area up to 30 feet, providing a 30-foot buffer. One of the variances that we are requesting is a reduction from 40 feet to 30 feet, and that is to allow, solely to allow access through our property, and also to allow garbage access to the adjacent dumpster on the adjacent property, as well as our proposed dumpster. If you could go to the next one, thank you. Here you can see our proposed site plan. Initial note on the site plan, there's a significant amount of green space on there. The MUBC district requires 10% open space. We are proposing a significant increase in that. On the south, or on the north parcel, we are proposing approximately 53.8% of the total lot area to be open space. That would equate to about 3.12 acres. And on the south, it's 50.3% of the site will be open space, or about 5 acres. As Tiffany mentioned, we are proposing 3 buildings, 5 stories each, 320 units of multifamily, with 10,200 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor. We're proposing hardscape in front of the commercial areas with streetscape along Century Boulevard. At this time, if you go to the next, at this time, I'd like to ask Eric Brock with Brock Hudgens to get up to briefly speak about the architectural component of the project.
Thank you. This slide just shows some historic photographs and a newer photograph from Chamblee. There's not a lot of context in that area except for the suburban office buildings. Next slide, please. So we took our cues from what we consider to be good urban architecture. As was mentioned, these are 5-story buildings, and so the bases of the buildings tend to have stone. We're proposing a granite stone, a gray granite, which is indigenous to the area, and 2 colors of brick, which we mentioned. We've concentrated the retail and the amenity spaces on opposite each other, opposite on both sides of the street, to create that node or that active area. As you drive through, it becomes more of a gateway, which I think is an intent of the zoning. Next slide, please. Here are some of the colors and materials. Next. And there you can see highlighted in yellow where those retail and commercial spaces would go, as well as our most of our amenities. So that's it. Thank you.
So much. Should the board have any questions, this is the time to discuss.
One of the variances, or at least in the presentation, I don't remember if it was tied specifically to a variance, mentioned retaining walls varying in height, some up to 7 feet. Looking at the plan, the only place I saw a notation of something of 7 feet was on the south side of the south building, on the actual building, not in the landscape, if you will. Is that accurate? So it's really a foundation wall for the building? Okay. What's the, so I know it's facing south, so it's not facing Century, so we're not super concerned from that perspective, but you do have like a sidewalk more or less, not directly abutting it, but pretty close. Is that just intended to be a concrete wall? Is it intended to be clad in stone like the base of the rest of the building? Just
5-foot strip, there's actually 10 feet from the back of the curb to the wall you're talking about. And so we do have landscape between the sidewalk and the wall.
ability to screen it a little bit.
Yes, sir. That's exactly the idea.
Yeah, if the wall is part of the building, if it's, it will be clad in.
You'll carry fenestration down? Okay. Sure. Got it.
There's only 2 site retaining walls, and one is.
Because they were small modular walls to the southwest.
Probably, exactly.
The retail space in the bottom of the buildings, is that a zoning I don't know the zoning for this from memory, but.
It is. The MUBC district requires a mix of 2 uses, multifamily, and then commercial retail is one of the others.
All right, so as a developer, do you see a demand for that retail space in this specific area? Or are we doing it just out of necessity to meet zoning? strong for walks. Okay, yeah, that's good, because, I mean, zoning obviously is meant to promote the mix of uses and street activity, but, you know, obviously, we want to make sure there's demand there. Last thing you want is a bunch of vacant retail space at the front door of your building, right? So it was more or less going to be like a recommendation, like if you don't see a viability for all of it, you know, I think there was a variance related to not putting your front door on the street, right? Your leasing center is sort of wrapped around the side, you know, use that as your front door, you know, to make sure that the front door is activated. But if you see the viability there, then we would obviously recommend that. Last initial question before I let some colleagues chime in is related to trash. So again, just quick glance, it looked like there's just 2 dumpster locations, both on the west side, one north, one south. Is that intended to be shared with the retail spaces? Okay. Okay. Got it. Well, it just seemed, yeah, because I didn't see anything on the, I mean, maybe I didn't look close enough, but I didn't see anything on the plans about it, and it seemed small for the amount of square footage we have. And then last thing related to the dumpster, on the north one, I think that's the one that's tied to the variance for
Being adjacent to the
It's not
property
really
line.
a rear yard, but that is the one.
yeah, it's behind the building. It's kind of the side, but it's more the proximity to the property line.
I will note it's adjacent to the existing dumpster for the building on the other property,
Yeah,
Right behind it,
right next to it.
yeah, the med vet.
to the west.
Yeah, the MedVet building,
Well,
yes.
you don't,
Okay. Understood. That's helpful to know. Because it was just like, I mean, I know we're asking for a variance, but for 2.5 feet, like your landscape, you know, strips or islands, whatever, are so large. It's like, surely we can get 2.5 feet out of there so that we don't have to ask for a variance. Understood. Thank you.
Just to follow up his comment, because I had a question about the walls too. So there will be no exposed concrete walls on the site, right? It'll either have modular or stone veneer, right? That's confirmed? Just, okay. Okay. Modular, right, okay, and that's fine. Another comment, I know one of your variances is tied to the entrances. On this far western entrance, kind of the first one you come to, were there any discussions about putting like a right in, right out right there so people can't try to shoot that gap in the median and go left? It seems like something people will do, and it seems kind of dangerous. About putting maybe an island right there and committing that to right in, right out? Okay. So you're thinking about actually just cutting the island to make it a little bit safer? Or the median? Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring, is that maybe that may make it too hard for a fire truck. I was just trying to make it a little bit safer if people try to shoot that left. Last thing on the northeastern kind of side of Building B, back on the north side of the dog park, could you guys add some more, just like a little bit thicker of a landscape buffer back there, maybe some evergreen shrubs? You've got some trees, but just something to shield the neighbors, you know?
The large green area north of the dog park.
Yeah, to the northeast, you've got a pretty good run along the northern side with the parking lot. Then when you get over to the dog park, it gets a little lighter with the trees. So just something to kind of beef that up, some evergreen. Okay. Okay. That's all I had.
On, on the south side, to the west.
Right. There's a reason. Unfortunately, there's a gigantic power line that runs right down through there, and that's why they didn't align them exactly, I am certain. There are big power poles that are right there just to the west of that existing entrance. And so, yeah, moving it over, it's actually not property that we currently are purchasing, but there's also a giant Georgia power line there. It is not likely, the answer is we can look at that. It is not likely that we're going to have permeability in that area because of it being the floodplain, because it's just not going to, the silts, it's not the natural geologic formation of the weathering of the rock. It's actually silts that have been deposited. And so we can check the permeability of the underlying soils. It's probably not good. It's probably too slow for permeable pavers. So I can look at that. It's a consideration. Oh, we're not in the street.
Yeah, we're,
At all.
we have
No,
four, we have
we're
four,
not. We actually are removing some impervious surface. There's a little finger that sticks up to the north on that southern parcel, and you see where we put an island in there? We actually put that island in there that doesn't exist today in order to remove some impervious surface from the stream buffer. And we wound up with, I think, 4 square feet.
Yes, 4 square feet. is
Literally
what-
because it's our drive aisle. Nope, good question. Northeast or northwest?
On the north, going to the north of the property? That's,
So
That's-
that's the leg that they were mentioning earlier, is a drive to actually get to the dumpster of the adjacent property.
This is the drive to get to the dumpster.
Yeah.
there's,
And it connects back to a parking lot that the MedVet utilizes.
Yeah, that is actually a driveway.
it's an existing,
It's actually a interconnectivity between the parcel to the north and this parcel.
What was the question? I, I,
The one showing right there.
Okay, so it does look like it goes into the med.
Could the applicant speak on the microphone so that is on the record? I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we could certainly improve that dirt path to make it a concrete sidewalk up to the right-of-way.
on our property.
On our property, yes, only on our property, and then provide some connectivity. Sure, good idea.
Sorry, they're calling it for it to be on the Marriott side. But that's not necessarily set in stone, depending on engineering and those kinds of things. And right now, the Brookhaven Phase 3 is proposed to end on the opposite side. So where it might connect into Chamblee is going to be essentially on your side of the creek. And I am wondering if you've considered that contingency, that possibility of that happening. And, would it necessarily affect the overall plan? Would it require any changes? I honestly don't think so, but I just wanted to put that out there and make sure you were aware of that.
But I think that's something that we can look at when those design plans come out. I mean, as you said, now it's on the other side of Peachtree Creek, but this would be, it would be an amenity for the residents there to have connectivity to the greenway itself. So I think that's something that we would welcome and we'd be glad to take a look at.
Okay, all right. And I think those were my questions for now.
Sorry, I have one more I forgot to ask. Will the trees in the median stay? Are those remaining? Are you guys doing anything with those?
In the middle of Century Boulevard, yes.
You may have to limb them up, but yes. For sight distance, but yes.
Thank you.
Board is ready to make some recommendations. We can take some notes here.
Eileen, is there any sort of recommendation specifically related to the Greenway that you're interested in making at this time, or?
Well, again, right now, the trail plan calls for it to be on the Marriott side. However, there hasn't been any engineering or anything done, so it's quite possible that it won't be able to be on that side, but it would have to be moved to this side. Right now, we don't really know. So I guess maybe to have that be in the back of, there's not like a specific recommendation, more like just have that be in the back of their minds to, if the possibility arises that it's on this side, to consider what sort of connectability these properties will have to get to the greenway itself.
What about just general cleanup of the creek?
Well,
that-
if that's
what-
something that we can ask for, I'll definitely ask for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it's a little gamey at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a study to bring this thing through, so I don't know that we necessarily need to make it a recommendation that they full-scale design and amenitize it,
Yeah.
you know, but personally, I'm thinking just a general recommendation to provide some basic cleanup of the creek area, like removal of fallen trees,
Invasives.
invasives,
Yeah.
ivy or species. You know, it doesn't look like it's a hugely eroded area back there, although it's hard to tell from the limited information we had, but.
And since there is a lot of impervious that's going to be removed from closer to the creek and pushed back, you know, that could, is that something that is amenable to you to like, as part of that cleanup of the area?
If I could add a comment. I would just say, we are removing a large amount of impervious, as you noted, from the floodplain. And in between the existing parking today and up to, it looks like the state buffer, it's grass landscaping. We're trying to stay out of the city's 50-foot buffer, undisturbed buffer with that. And 75-foot buffer as much as possible, except for the 4 square feet with impervious. I mean, I think as much as possible, we are trying to protect the stream buffer along that area. You know, if there's cleanup, that doesn't involve having to get a variance or going to the EPD to get a, you know.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily, knowing that there's a greenway design forthcoming or planned or hoped for, you know, that we're not trying to design the creek. But, you know, I think, you know, in terms of removal of trees that are already fallen, removal of trash, right? I don't know that that kind of thing would be.
You know, they prohibit that. And so we do not want to get into any of that. But certainly it's going to be up to, absolutely getting some labor down in there. We can't get equipment. You know, we can't do that kind of thing.
Cleanup is allowable under the code.
Yes. As long as it's that, but yeah. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah. Well, the path itself already has design standards attached to it, so it wouldn't be like creating a new path, like we already have that. It would just be to make sure that that y'all like kind of can connect to it essentially. But yeah, having you know, making sure that, you know, you clean up the debris and that I think would be a great recommendation. Thank you.
All right, so do we just want to go ahead and formulate something tied to that? So we just recommend that the applicant provide basic cleanup of the portion of the creek that resides on their property as allowable by, you know, the code and does not necessitate additional land disturbance permitting, such as removal of trash and or fallen trees.
I have to tell a story because I'm an old man. I've been told by the state that I cannot remove a tire from a stream bank. I'm not kidding. If it will disturb, so just so you know, I do not want the state involved. So, you know, but absolutely, yes. Look, it's our creek. we see it as an amenity, you know, and we're gonna make it so that the folks can get there if they want to. I just do not want to get afoul of the Sally Bethea and her type.
Yeah, just, no silt fences and, like I said, no machinery. I think the only other recommendation I would make, simply because my goal is always to try to reduce the number of things that we're asking for, is to just tend to explore reshaping of the landscape island at the parking of the north parcel to move the dumpster out of the, or to the minimum 5 foot required from the side property line, if that made sense.
Sorry, that was on the northwest
Property line.
northwest property line.
Two and a half, just. Yeah, yeah, the recommendation is, yeah, we can't comment specifically on variances, but to not necessitate asking for one where it's not really needed, in my opinion, feels like we can massage that a little bit. Otherwise, I don't have any other things. I thought the design was well done. I like that we were adding water quality to, you're not just dumping water straight into the creek from our parking lot. You know, the building design itself, I mean, most of the recommendations we give for a lot of multifamily projects we get, the building design is doing. So commend Brock Hudgens on that. And I think it'll be a much better project than what's there today.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to formally do something about the landscaping?
Yeah, if you would like to recommend that they add that, you can make that recommendation.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that they add the additional landscaping on the northeast side of the site and work on the connectivity to that footbridge, I don't know what you want to call it. Pedestrian walkway. I'm not really sure
Increase
what it is.
pedestrian connectivity
Yeah,
at
just
the
pedestrian
north.
connectivity to the neighborhood.
Well, it's already there, so maybe it's just improving.
Improve pedestrian, yeah, connectivity.
There you go. I'd also like to recommend that you try to just look at that far left entrance. Yeah, vehicular entrance, to improve the vehicular entrance, the far left entrance. Whether that be cutting into the island or just take another look at it.
All right, so the 5 conditions that we have are that the applicant should consider possible connectivity to the Peachtree Creek Greenway should the planned right-of-way for that project change. Applicant should provide basic cleanup for the portion of the creek that resides on their property to the extent permissible by the UDO without triggering the need for variances, such as the removal of trash, debris, and removing fallen trees from the creek. 3, the applicant should move the dumpster at the northwest property line to be a minimum of 5 feet from the property line. 4, the applicant should add additional landscaping to the northern buffer and improve pedestrian connectivity via the footbridge. And 5, the applicant should improve the far left vehicular entrance.
That sounds pretty good to me.
All right.
Any others?
Get a
No, I think that's it.
motion and a second to that effect.
I'll motion to approve conditions as read by Matt Adams.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Vote passes 3-0-0.
Thank you.
We don't have any additional things on the agenda, so if you'd like to make a motion to adjourn and a second and a vote.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, Thank you.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 3-0-0.
I know sometimes these things they feel so informal that it's hard to remember to do the formal.
Yes. I promise I'll do better next time. Thank you.
When the room fills up, it's easy to remember.
Exactly.
Thanks, guys. No opposition. That's good.
Hey, Matt, do you know
Yeah.
what's behind this wall?
Yeah, nothing.
Yes, I'm trying to get my edge. I'm trying to work hard on this, but yeah, it's cool. I like it. Yes, I heard like 15 years or so. I don't know, like a long time. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that's anything. I think that was a wall they pushed out to, 'cause there's a balcony up top and through the city manager's